In the heart of a small African village lived a woman named Amara. She was kind, gentle, and worked harder than anyone else in the fields. Yet she carried a sorrow that weighed heavy on her spirit. For many years, she had no child. Her arms were empty, while the other women carried babies on their backs and little ones clung to their legs. The village women mocked her each time they gathered at the stream. They whispered behind her back and sometimes laughed loudly to her face. They called her barren tree and said she was cursed. Though Amara tried to smile, their words pierced her like thorns. Her husband, Obinna, loved her, but even he could not protect her from the sharp tongues of neighbors. Every festival season, when children sang and danced in circles, Amara's heart broke a little more. One evening, after returning from the stream, she sat under the great iroko tree and cried. She prayed to the spirits of the ancestors, asking why she had been forgotten. In the silence of the night, she heard the soft rustle of the leaves, as if the tree itself had heard her sorrow.
The next night, Amara returned to the same iroko tree. The moon shone bright, painting the village in silver light. She knelt on the cool earth and poured her heart into prayer. Her tears watered the roots, and in that quiet moment she heard a gentle whisper. It was not the wind, but a voice deep and soft, rising from the tree itself. The iroko spirit spoke to her, calling her by name. It told her that her sorrow had reached the ears of the unseen ones. She was not cursed, the spirit said, but chosen for something greater. Amara trembled, for she had never heard a tree speak. "Your womb will not remain empty forever," the voice promised. "But the child you will carry will not be an ordinary one. When the time is right, the village will understand why you waited." Amara's heart filled with both hope and fear. She asked how this would be possible, but the tree only whispered, "Trust in the spirits and wait." When she returned home that night, her face was different. Though she still had no child, her eyes carried a quiet fire, and her steps were lighter than before.
Days turned into weeks, and Amara kept her secret close to her chest. She returned often to the iroko tree, leaving small offerings of palm oil, kola nuts, and ground maize at its roots. The other women saw her and mocked her even more. They laughed, saying she was wasting her time talking to a tree instead of accepting her fate. One morning, while walking in the fields, Amara felt a sudden change within her body. A warmth spread through her, unlike anything she had ever felt. She placed her hand on her belly and knew something had begun. When moons passed, her belly grew round, and the whispers of the women turned into loud gossip. Some said she was lying. Others claimed she had used witchcraft. Amara ignored them and walked with her head high. Obinna, her husband, was filled with joy. He sang songs of thanksgiving and danced like a young boy again. Yet in the corners of the village, some elders warned that such a child, born after many barren years, might bring trouble. Still, Amara's faith remained unshaken. She remembered the voice of the iroko and trusted the promise it had given her.
The night the child came, the skies were strange. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, and the air carried a heavy silence. Women gathered in Amara's hut, whispering their doubts. Some expected sorrow, others waited to see shame. But as the pains of birth tore through her body, Amara clung to the memory of the iroko's promise. She cried out, and after long hours of struggle, the cry of a baby broke the night. It was not a weak cry, but strong and full, echoing through the village like a drumbeat. When the midwife lifted the child, her eyes widened. The baby boy's skin glowed softly as though touched by moonlight. His eyes were bright, watching everything around him, though he was just born. The women gasped. Some backed away in fear, whispering that the child was not ordinary. Others bowed their heads, sensing something sacred. Obinna held his son with trembling hands, tears running down his cheeks. He named him Chidera, meaning what God has written. Amara smiled through her exhaustion, her arms no longer empty. That night, even the mocking voices were silent, for the village felt something great had entered their midst.
Chidera grew quickly, and the village watched him with curious eyes. He was not like the other children. While others stumbled, he walked early. While others spoke in broken words, his speech came clear and wise. Sometimes he would sit under the iroko tree and hum songs no one had taught him. The children loved him, for he was gentle and kind. He shared his food and defended the weak. But the adults whispered among themselves. Some said the child carried a blessing. Others said he carried danger. One dry season, when the river nearly vanished and the crops withered in the sun, the villagers gathered in worry. They spoke of hunger and thirst. Sacrifices were made to the gods, yet the sky stayed hard and blue. One evening, as the elders argued, little Chidera walked to the iroko tree. He placed his small hands on its trunk and closed his eyes. Moments later, a cool wind blew. The clouds gathered, and rain poured upon the thirsty earth. The people ran out in amazement, shouting with joy. But some looked at Amara with fear, asking what kind of child she had brought into the world.
The hearts of the villagers. Some rejoiced, saying the boy was a blessing sent by the ancestors. But others grew jealous, their hearts darkened by envy. They could not bear that the woman they once mocked now carried honor. Whispers turned into sharp tongues again. Some said Amara had used secret charms to bring forth a spirit child. Others claimed Chidera would one day bring ruin to the village. One elder, who had always mocked Amara, gathered the people. He told them, "No child should have such power. If the rain obeys him today, tomorrow he may command the winds to destroy us." Fear crept into many hearts. But Obinna stood tall. He told them, "This child is a gift, not a curse. When you mocked my wife, she bore it in silence. Now you mock my son, but you will yet see his greatness." That night, Amara prayed again under the iroko tree. The spirit whispered that trials would come, but she must hold fast. She held Chidera close, her heart strong, knowing his miracle was not just for her family, but for the whole village.
Seasons passed, and Chidera grew taller, his wisdom shining brighter each day. Yet, the jealousy of some villagers deepened like a festering wound. They waited for a chance to prove the boy was a curse. One year, a great danger struck the land. A fierce fire started at the far end of the village. The wind carried the flames quickly, and huts began to burn. Women screamed, children ran, and men tried to fight the fire with buckets of water. But it spread faster than their hands could move. In the chaos, one man shouted, "This is the work of the spirit child."
Others agreed, pointing at Chidera. They demanded that he be taken away so the flames would stop. But Amara, with trembling steps, pushed through the crowd and held her son. Her heart pounded, yet Chidera calmly walked toward the raging fire. He lifted his hands and whispered words no one could understand. Suddenly, a heavy rain burst from the clouds, drenching the flames and saving the village from ruin. Silence fell. Those who had doubted were ashamed, and those who had mocked could not lift their eyes.
After the fire was quenched, the whole village gathered around Chidera. No one spoke at first, for the boy's calm face and shining eyes told them he was no ordinary child. Slowly, the elders bowed their heads, one by one, until the whole crowd was silent in respect. The same people who once mocked Amara now knelt before her, ashamed of their words. They begged her forgiveness and called her blessed among women. Amara's heart swelled, not with pride, but with gratitude. She remembered the nights of tears, the cruel names, and the loneliness. Now those days were gone. The chief of the village declared, "This boy is a gift from the spirits. His presence will bring us protection and blessing." He ordered that Chidera be honored and that Amara be respected for her patience and faith. From that day on, the mocking voices were silenced forever. The villagers began to look at barren women differently, no longer with scorn, but with compassion, for they had learned that destiny is written by powers greater than men. Amara's miracle had changed everything. The woman once called Barren Tree was now known as the Mother of Light.